The Shep Naz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shep Naz Podcast. I'm Joe, and today is
Worship Wednesday.
And we are all charged up and ready to go.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We have with us Pastor Zack and Noah. Welcome back in.
Thank you, Joe.
We missed you last week.
Yes, feels like it's been a while.
Did you listen to us last week, or did you just boycott because you were mowing grass?
Oh, I was done.
Yeah.
Checked out.
If I'm not there,
It didn't happen.
I've heard his rant so many times about that story, so I was like, I know it. Don't even need to listen.
Fine.
All right. Fair enough. So
Between you and the Lord at this point.
right. So today you have something else on tap.
Yes.
What do you have in store for us?
Yeah. So again, we're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
Because
There's no lack of that around here.
no, there's not.
No.
We're a creative bunch.
Oh yeah.
Thank the good Lord. And we're trying to think of just something different, like something we could talk about that's still worship related, but not like the ins and outs of what we do on Sunday or whatever. And so Noah and I got talking, and we came up with this idea where we want to talk about songs that are not necessarily songs that we would play on Sunday morning, like in a worship setting, but are still songs that really touch our hearts as far as worship goes, right? So like there's certain songs that might be a little too heavy, or they might not be in like a good congregational singing experience, but are still songs that lyrically really push us towards the heart of the Father. So we just kind of wanted to highlight some songs that Noah and I listen to, and knowing Noah and I, like, nobody's going to know these bands or these songs. But we just kind of wanted to highlight some ways, because I know there's lots of really good songs out there that might not be necessarily worship songs, but that have lyrics that truly take you straight to the heart of the Father. And you might not sing them in church on Sunday morning.
And I suppose we'll give this disclaimer at the top. That just because there was a song from a particular artist that we like doesn't mean that we're endorsing every song they ever did, or that we're saying this is a Christian artist or anything of that nature.
100%.
All right.
Yeah, we're not recommending you go listen to all the discography, but these songs in particular were ones that really touched our hearts. So, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, well, I know one of yours, so I'll segue in. But Gable Price, the one song that gets me pretty amped from him is Underdressed. And I wouldn't ever really play it in church, but there's a couple lines in that song. But it says, the darkest, deepest petrified at the gaze of Yahweh's eyes. And just kind of that, I love that term Yahweh. I love calling God Yahweh. And so to have that kind of in like a fun tune is really cool. And then it says, I'm feasting with a king who left the stone for me. Forgiveness isn't fair, but it's my reality. And you are holy and I'm underdressed. And it's like that whole, like, we have a feast. Like there's like, we're invited to sit with our king. And like for me to sit there, I'm underdressed. Like I'm not supposed to be here. Like like if I'm here, anybody can be here. And just that reality of we have that forgiveness, we have that grace from him that we can sit among a king and feast with him. Like it's just so, and just I think he's a phenomenal singer too.
Oh my gosh!
And so when he sings that,
and that is one band I can endorse, because they are.
He's great.
Theologically sound Christian band, and their songs are phenomenal and theologically really good.
Well, even
as
that,
well.
What was that one song?
Oh, that one?
I don't know. It's a lyrically heretic.
Yeah.
Dude, if you actually listen to Heretic, that is a theological, just like. Like that's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
In a different context, that would be a country song. The Heretic.
Heretic. I got a heretic.
That been just out in the field.
That hit like 5 seconds after you said it, but I got there.
Light bulb moment. Actually, funny. So this wasn't on my list, but it made me think of this. So this whole idea of like underdress, come as you are. Like God is not asking us to be perfect first, right? He says, come as you are. So there is a lovely woman in our church named Linda Gantz. If you don't know Linda, get to know Linda. She's the bomb. And for Christmas, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, I'm not sure. She bought me a t-shirt. She went to a concert. She bought me a t-shirt. It's from a band called The Sound. And I don't know anything about this band other than this song because of this t-shirt. And it says The Sound on the front, and on the back it says Jeans and Jesus, which is a song that they do. It's all about that come as you are. Like Jesus isn't asking you to put on a suit. He says, come in your jeans, right? And I was at BB Bop on Sunday, and I was standing in line, and I feel a guy tap me on the shoulder behind me. He goes, dude, I need to know what the heck your shirt's about. Like, I don't get it. He's like, I've seen coffee and Jesus and God and Jesus and like a bunch of different Jesus shirts. He's like, but jeans and Jesus? Like, I need to know what you're talking about. And so it opened up this conversation. And I was like, well, it's this band, and a lady from the church got me this shirt. And it's all about how Jesus isn't asking you to be perfect first. He said, come as you are. So like for me, I love that because I'm going to show up to church on Sunday in my jeans.
Yeah.
Because Jesus didn't ask me to be perfect, right? He asked us to bring our best. But I always like get that phrase that my Sunday best, you know, there's a lot of people out there that won't like me saying that because there's people that feel the need that they want to dress up and bring their best to come on Sunday morning. And that's perfectly fine. But there's so many people out there that feel like they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, I don't have a nice suit, so I'm not going to show up to church. Like, no, Jesus wants you exactly as you are. So something simple as a shirt and a song, right, was able to open up this conversation with a guy in line at BB Bop. And a seed was planted. I don't know. I didn't say the salvation prayer with him or anything, but we had a cool conversation.
Yeah.
So random, but just that song.
Yeah.
Talking about just coming as you are.
Yeah, they have a cool song. The Sound does. I only know these guys because I go to the Gaither concert with my grandparents.
Heyo.
And they're a Southern gospel band.
You just made so many friends on this
He's
podcast.
talking to us about the Gaithers like, you know, I've heard this band.
You know, there's this guy.
There's like four of them.
Phenomenal singers. No, so I went to the Gaither concert.
Small little group.
And
right.
but so the Sound has a song called First Church of Mercy, and it says, "Welcome to the First Church of Mercy, where the doors of love swing open wide. No matter what you've done, no matter who you are, you can come inside. Welcome to the altar of forgiveness, where the fallen can fall and the tears are wiped away."
Wow,
like that's a good line.
That's a really good line.
Where the fallen can fall and the tears are wiped. So it's just kind of that come and it talks about like this guy who's drunk, like. Coming into the church because of his night before, but he has mercy and he has forgiveness because of who Christ is.
That's awesome.
It's cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, total rabbit trail. We're going to bring it back around to Gable Price because you set me up so well with the transition and I botched it. But going back to Gable Price and friends.
We got to Gaither there. That was a weird.
I'm not sure. Here we are, folks. There's a band called Gable Price and Friends, as we discussed, and they have a song called Touch Your Robe. And so if you have done your Bible studies and you've grown up in church, there's a story where Jesus is walking through the crowd and a woman who is has an illness of bleeding, right?
Yeah.
And she touches his robe. That's all she did. Like she fought through the crowd and simply touched his robe and was healed.
Yeah.
Like didn't ask for prayer, didn't make it a big altar call moment. She simply fought through a crowd of people that Jesus was just trying to get through. Just like, please get out of my way so I can go to the next thing. And she reached out and grabbed his robe and was healed. And to the point where Jesus noticed it. He was like, who just touched me? Like something happened and I want to know what it was.
Like everybody touched you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that's a cool point though. Like everybody's touching you, right? And you're bumping it, and maybe this is me just riffing because this is just what you made me think of. Like, what were those people's intentions? Like, I just want to say I touched Jesus because the celebrity or whatever, you know, like treating Jesus like a celebrity. But she truly was seeking healing in that moment. And when she came with faith, knowing that Jesus could heal her, and simply touched his robe, and that caused the healing.
Yeah.
That's when Jesus noticed it.
You know, the remarkable part of that story for me is that as you're studying that, she had this condition for 12 years.
Yep.
And she had gone to all kinds of different doctors and basically anybody that was considered a healer.
Yep.
And you would have thought would have given up after all that. But even though all of those efforts she had gone through, when she was realizing she had an opportunity to be in the presence of Jesus, she was like, all I need to do is touch the hem of his garment. And, I mean, what incredible faith, because she'd already exhausted every other possibility. Everybody had tried everything. And she realized how little it was going to take from Jesus to do what nobody else could do. Like, 100%. If I can just touch the hem, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's powerful, dude.
Yeah. Right.
I love how this podcast just took a turn from songs to, I love it. I'm fired up right now, Joe. I'm fired up.
Oh, good. Well,
I love it.
Let's see. I can throw one in.
Go for it.
So, right before we started, like a few seconds before we started,
we did not warn Joe what we were talking about today. We just threw it at him.
This is what we're going to talk about. So I was like, what song? Now, in my head, when you said that, I kind of went a different direction. All right, because this is actually the song that first came to mind when you mentioned this idea was actually an 80s pop song. And probably so many people don't even realize what these lyrics are saying. So there's a song, Kyrie eleison, Down the Road That I Must Travel.
Nice. Fancy.
Yeah.
Is that French?
Kind of. For some people. So I don't know if you're familiar with that phrase or if you remember that song. I mean, obviously you guys weren't alive, but it's a bop. So, but that song, Kyrie eleison, that is Latin for God have mercy on us. And so this goes a little bit back towards my classical roots. So in masses, like in choral masses and so forth, there's particular sections that you have, like the Agnus Dei and the Kyrie eleison. And so this is a part of a liturgy and is God have mercy on us. And so if you're thinking of the translation while you're hearing the lyrics of this song, it's basically saying, God have mercy on us down this road that we must travel. And so every time I hear that song, I'm hearing it that way and not necessarily just like the pop way that it was. It sounded
just
cool.
A catchy hook.
Yeah, right. But
Man, that's cool.
That's always meant a lot to me. So now you have to look up that song. I don't even remember who did it, but it won't take long to find that. So
quick Google.
All right, who's up next?
Go for it.
Can I look up lyrics real quick?
Okay, I'll go while you're doing that.
We're going to pause. Everyone's going to look up Kyrie eleison right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got to see what that's about.
One thing that I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast yet, but so with worship being like Noah and I's job, it's easy to get kind of wrapped up in finding yourself like, I want to be careful how I say it. Know my heart. Please know my heart. Like, it's easy to just kind of be like, I'm just listening to music to listen to music and find a song that works for our church, right? Like,
right. Every time you have the radio on, you're hearing the next worship song. Like, will this one work for us? Could I voice this? Could Noah voice this? Do we have female voices that could voice this?
Yeah, exactly.
And you just start going through analyzing.
Yeah.
it.
It's like I was actually talking to my brother about this the other day because he's a chef and like a really good chef. I'm like, can you go to a restaurant and just eat? Like, can you just eat a meal without critiquing it or like picking it apart? And he's like, no. Like, it's so rare that you just, you find yourself like getting, okay, how can I pick this song apart? How can it work, right? And so for me to kind of break out of that mold, like I like to listen to weird stuff, like just something different. And if I can find weird and Christian, like even better.
Yeah.
And so maybe anybody listening has heard of the band Judah and the Lion. They're kind of popular, or were kind of popular in the poppy world. Well, Judah, the frontman, kind of branched off and did his own more faith-based project. And he has this song called You've Done the Rest. And the first time I heard it, it was just kind of like, oh, this is just different and unique and like catchy. And he's using like electronic stuff and samples. And I'm just like, oh, this is kind of cool the way he's like, it's just unique and creative. And then he started singing. And like within the first like 30 seconds of this song, I was just like weeping in my car. So I just want to read some of these lyrics because they're so good. So there's some lyrics. The first verse is, here I am once again falling on your faithfulness, and at the end of my best, God, I come, you've done the rest. And then the pre-chorus is, your cross, my confidence, your death, my plea, your resurrection, my cry of victory. You've thought of everything, there's nothing left, and all I do is come, you've done the rest. Right? Like, I'm doing it now, you know? Like, I think back to kind of what we've been talking about, this come as you are. And to me, it's like so many times we just complicate this thing. Like we complicate what it means to come to Jesus. Like, no, God, I gotta get sober first. I have to fix this first. I have to fix these relationships first. I have to clean myself up. And God's like, would you just stop and come? Because I'm the one that's going to do that. I've done the rest, man. Yeah. Like, I'm super emotional about it because it's like, it's so powerful. Like, I think of, the story, we've talked about it before on the podcast, but the story of the prodigal son. And that, he screwed up. He screwed up bad and ended up deciding he'd rather be a slave. And like, he had to lower his standards and say, I'm the worst of the worst. And that's the only way that I can come to the Father is if I can be a slave in my dad's house. I'm going to cry today, boys. I don't know if I'm tired or what, but like,
it's all good.
I'm an emotional boy today. And in that picture of just like him walking down the road with his head held low, accepting the fact that like, I'll just be a slave just to be back in my Father's house. And his father was like, nah, like, not only am I going to come running to you to meet you, I'm not going to wait till you get here.
Yeah.
I'm going to come running to you, and then I'm going to put you in the finest robe and put a ring on your finger, and then I'm going to throw you a feast because I don't care what you've done. You're home, and I love you. And so that idea of all I do is come because, God, you've done the rest. It wrecks me. It wrecks me every time.
And a part of that when I anytime I hear that story, I can't help but hear in my head there's an old song. It was probably in the 80s or 90s. There was a Christian artist for a short period of time. They just pop up and they're there and then they go away. But his name was Benny Hester, and he did a song called "When God Ran."
Yeah.
And it was all about the fact that the whole prodigal son story, but God ran to me. And I didn't, I had turned towards home, but he was there and he was waiting. And one of the beautiful things about the gifts that he was given, if you remember in the story, he had asked for his inheritance before he ever left home.
Yeah.
So everything he was technically owed had already been given to him.
Yep.
And then he left and he squandered all that. So when he came back, all these things that he was being adorned with were gifts that he did not deserve.
Yep.
They were gifts that he could not have earned. There was no way he could say this was my inheritance, that this is just what I should have been given. He knew when he was being given this stuff that there was just no level that he could deserve it, that he warranted it, that this was all a gift. Yep. And that's part of the picture of grace in that story. Not only does God receive us back, but then he gives us gifts that we know that we don't deserve. Yep. And they're just from his abundance, because if we were owed anything, we've already received it. In fact, what we really are owed is condemnation and death and judgment for our sin. Yep. But instead, he gives us these lavish gifts.
Yeah, man.
No, I interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It just makes me so thankful. Just, it's not about my performance. Like, we have faith. Like, yeah, we should strive for righteousness and holiness, but I fail a lot. And it's never about my performance, but it's his performance on the cross for me.
Yeah.
And because he did that, my performance is flawed and I'm never going to be what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I have forgiveness and he's going to run me down every time that I wind up on that road again.
Yeah, man.
So,
It's the beauty of God's grace, man. Never fails. Never runs out.
All right, brothers, where are we going?
Got one more,
to
Pally?
put a bow on this thing. All right. This is from my buddy Mike Maines.
Ooh.
Oh, and the branches.
And the branches.
You know the branches? Mike, if you're watching, whatever camera, I love you.
This one's for you, Mike.
I want to get lunch with you. So please, I'm going to tag you in this. So please get lunch with me.
Wow.
I love him.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a throwback for you. But go ahead.
So he has a new song off his new album. And it's called Lost Boys. And it says, gonna go to the river, I'll wash away this pain, wrap my body in roses, I am Moses, spirit take me dancing in the rain. It says, I'm a long way from who I could have been, darling, my heart is flooded with regret, I smashed the stones and I cut the sea, gave this life all I had, and I'm a long way from the promised land. And it's just like,
whoa.
I feel like I have that thought of just like, I know where I want to be. Like, I know where God has me going and I want to be there so bad, but I feel like I'm so far sometimes, like from what I'm supposed to be at. And just, he actually wrote that after he wanted to take his life.
Wow.
And just that we're lost boys, that's kind of a side note weird, but we're lost and like we're Moses sometimes, but you know, I'm a long way from who I could have been. I have regret, but I have that promised land waiting for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to chase it. And if I get there, I get there. If I don't, I don't. But that song always, when I heard that live, I was just like,
Noah standing in a crowd of people jumping and he's just
I
sobbing.
love you, Mike. But for real, Mike, get lunch with me, please. He's actually going to be here in September. So I'm going to tag him in this.
Well, get him on the podcast.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well,
Would be awesome.
start working on it now.
Come on. Come
I'll
on.
DM him, please.
All right.
Mike,
We could go on forever, but we won't.
Yes, we could.
We really enjoy you guys chiming in with us. So we would love to hear maybe if you would email podcast@shepnaz.org, maybe tell us a song that hits you, even though it may not have originally been intended to be a worship song, but somehow pushes you to the Father. If you'd let us know, we'd really appreciate that. Also, you can follow everything that's going on in church by going to shepnaz.org. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastor Zack and Noah, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.